Tell us a little bit about what you saw and being able to relay that message to Cora when you watched Kimbrel pitch and kind of help out so he wasn't tipping his pitches.
So tipping pitches, we hear about it all the time.
People at home understand what tipping pitches is all about.
It's amazing.
And that's remarkable.
Alex, as we sit down to record this podcast, it's 3:11 Eastern time. Are you aware of the fact that in 19 minutes, Game 7 between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets tips off to determine who will advance to the Western Conference Finals and meet their opponent, the Minnesota Timberwolves, a.k.a. the biggest asset, not liability, asset in the portfolio of one Alex Rodriguez. Are you aware of this?
I am aware of this. I have been locked in on this ever since we talked about this.
This is a bad sign for me, by the way, that you had to lean off to the side and cough. And the first thing that you said in the podcast.
First thing that I said, yes, this is going to go great. Amazing. Please do not make me laugh. No jokes, no bits.
No bits.
It's just going to turn into a coughing fit. Yeah, I'm locked in. And what you told me is we want the Nuggets to win, right? Because the Thunder are going to steamroll the Timberwolves.
I believe I said they're going to eat their lunch.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Steamroll, eat their lunch, run them off the court. I don't know. I just think the Thunder are better. I don't really know how the Nuggets are doing this. They didn't have a very good season. This is championship metal. You know what that is? Championship metal.
Mm-hmm. But for the uninitiated.
Experience, grit, veteran savvy. That's what the Nuggets have. That's what's
metal,
getting them through.
METAL?
I think it's MEDDLE. No, that can't be right.
Oh, like metal. Like metal.
Yeah. Well, you can't just Google championship metal because then it'll just show you a bunch of like fake metals. Vocabulary.com. Metal versus metal versus metal. Commonly confused words. It's METTLE. There you go.
All right.
That's the version we're looking for.
Still don't really know the scenario in which I would say that. But look, Aaron Gordon is back.
Is he?
He's
playing?
He's playing.
Well, he's going to give it a go, but he has an actually strained hamstring. So we'll see how long that lasts.
I opened up Yahoo Sports and read you the first headline that I saw.
Is that where you go when you need to learn about sports?
Yep.
Why is that?
What's your go-to like generalized sports app?
Outkick.
Stop.
What? I saw a job posted for them for a podcast producer. Should I throw in the application?
I think you should.
You think so?
Yeah.
No,
I think
now's
you
not a
are
good
the
time
target
for me.
demo.
Now's not. I don't think it's a good time for me in my career.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the target demo. No, but you could finally make your pivot into professional podcasting via Outkick.
You don't think this is professional enough?
No. Is Outkick the one with Clay Travis?
Yeah.
Is Jason Whitlock there too, or is he doing something else?
Dude, I don't know. Jason, you're really asking me to think about Jason Whitlock in 2025?
I'm not asking you to think about him for the first. I know you think about him all the time because he's your outfit inspo.
Right. Him and Lori Lightfoot.
Straw hats, you know?
Yep.
A lot of straw hats in your
a lot of oversized suits.
Well, oversized suits are back in. What did he know?
They are, I know. But you never answered my question. What is your sports app?
I use the Yahoo Sports app too.
Wow.
But also, okay, here's the thing that we've been contending with recently. The only place that actually covers sports in anything approaching a comprehensive way nowadays is just The Athletic, which is just the New York Times, which means it comes with all the same trappings of the New York Times.
Yep.
I think plenty of people at The Athletic do great work.
Oh, absolutely.
But everything is so niche nowadays. I have nothing that is comprehensive. Used to be, but I guess, did I ever is a question that I wonder. Because it used to be that I would open several tabs for different kinds of stories. And now I just don't. I've been trained to not use the internet that way.
Right. You use ChatGPT and say, find me the biggest stories from baseball this week.
Well, yeah. I've been told recently that it's just going to become part of everyone's work life and I need to do a training about it.
Bad time to tell you that I just bought us the enterprise version for our work.
How much does the enterprise version cost? Because like I feel
Clearly
real,
not enough to keep it from losing millions of dollars.
I feel real like it's one banana. What could it cost? Michael territory with ChatGPT. I'm like the enterprise version could cost like $100 a month, and I'd be like, sure. It could also cost $10,000 a month, and I'd be like, that's not that surprising to me. So what is it?
I feel like it's more likely the latter.
Okay, this is like Slack. You know, if you want to pay for like a professional upgrade to Slack, it's like by user. It would cost us like $35,000 a month.
I know.
I can't believe that companies are paying that.
I know.
Are companies paying that?
Apparently.
Where does all this money come from?
And can someone give a little bit of it to us, frankly?
Well, some people are giving a little bit of it to us. Thanks to this week's new patrons, Jonathan, Anthony, Zach, Daniel, Eric, Lucas, Rob, Michelle, Sam, and Dave. You like that? How about that?
That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Listen, today I don't really know what we're going to talk about. I mean, I do. There's a couple things that I feel like we have to talk about. And then we're just going to see where it goes. And that's what Tipping Pitches is all about. Before we do, I am Bobby Wagner.
I am Alex Baisley.
And you are listening to the Tipping Pitches podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Sorry, I'm just watching a Kevin O'Connor video.
Oh, to learn about the Nuggets?
Mm-hmm.
What's he teaching you?
Well, it's on mute, so I'm just looking at his face, but...
What are his facial expressions saying to you?
Now they've cut away from him entirely. He's not even there.
Do you want me to cold call him right now and ask him what you need to know about the Nuggets?
Yes, I do.
He would probably
Should I
answer.
be concerned about Aaron Gordon's hamstring?
You should be. He would probably answer if I called him right now. Be like, Kevin, you're live. You're live.
Should we start doing that bit, right? Where we'd be like, what's up? Colin McHugh. You're live on the pod right now. What do you have to say?
Do you have Colin McHugh's phone number? I don't.
I thought one of us did.
We texted with Colin McHugh? The pandemic was a real black hole for my brain.
I don't know, man.
There's one way to find out.
There's
one way to find out. Colin. Oh, yep. There it is. You learn something new every day. He's right next to my high school basketball coach, Coach Coleman. Wow, that's funny. No, they do that on Rewatchables. Bill cold calls Russillo.
Nice.
And sometimes he picks up and sometimes he doesn't. And they I believe they don't talk about it beforehand. So it's just a matter of whether or not Russillo's busy.
That's
whether
podcasting.
You get that segment. That is podcasting.
That is professional podcasting.
I mean, you don't get to be the GOAT without cold calling a couple of Russillos along the way.
I've always thought of you as my Russillo.
Thanks, I guess. I think that's a good bit. I just don't know who we would call. I could cold call Jake right now, but I don't think he would be able to tell us anything about the Nuggets.
Anything interesting?
Yeah. Well, the Phillies are playing, so he won't answer. He's busy watching his favorite team. Okay. Alex, the first topic that I want to talk to you about today, and I hate to be like every other podcast, and I hate to be East Coast bias. I hate to be like WFAN. I don't actually hate to be like that. That's like a career goal of mine.
I know you're looking up at the poster of Mike in front of you.
Right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Right in front. If only this podcast was on video, you'd be able to see the reflection of his in my glasses.
We give it a little tap every time we enter the studio, like a little kiss on the, kiss my hand, touch
like
his
Ted
forehead.
Lasso with the respect sign.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Did you watch Ted Lasso?
I think I watched the first 2 seasons. Was there a third?
There was a third, and now there's going to be a fourth. Mm-hmm. I watched the first 2 seasons and the first 2 episodes of the third season, and then I decided that I respected myself. It took me that long, but I decided that. No, the first topic I want to talk to you about today is Juan Soto's return to the Bronx.
Amazing.
I didn't even tell you that we were going to talk about this, but I feel like you should be prepared.
I am familiar with Juan Soto and the Bronx.
Juan Soto played for the Yankees for 1 year. That's one. That's 1 more than 0, but 1 less than 2 years. That's how many seasons. He was with the New York Yankees. He was traded there. He did not even choose to sign there. for 1 year. He was traded there and was mandated to play there. After playing that 1 year, he decided to sign somewhere else. That somewhere else, many of you probably know by now, is Queens. Just one borough over. Just
Same
one.
city.
Same city, one borough over. Probably lives in the same place that he did when he played for the Yankees.
Yeah.
This has made everybody crazy. This choice that Juan Soto made. He got booed very intensely in his return to the Yankees. This is the first Subway Series that the Mets and Yankees have played this season. It is in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium, and we all knew he was going to get booed. We knew it was coming. The tenor around his choice to sign with the Mets, the tenor around the Yankees fandom, I would argue they're obsessed with him, is the tone for the last month or two, while also telling you simultaneously that they don't care about him at all. Soto handled it in typical showman fashion that he has handled most things in his career. He did a tip of his cap to the Yankees fans while booing him. He has been ribbing the right field bleacher seats his whole time out there this weekend. They have one more game to play tonight, obviously. So in terms of on the field, not really that much exciting has been going on in the Soto corner. He's been walked 4 or 5 times through the first 2 games, and he has 1 hit. He scored a run. But outside of that, not that many fireworks on the field. The reason I want to talk to you about this is because it does feel like the biggest on-field and kind of off-field story in baseball at the moment. And it's really interesting to me because I want to know, like, is it weird to you how intense this has become? He played there for 1 year. Like, there feels like there's nothing normal about this. The Yankees fans are being deranged about him. And Mets fans, full transparency here, are definitely overcorrecting and pretending like they don't care and are really nonchalant about this whole thing. I just think it's like a real unstoppable force meets immovable object of ridiculousness going on between the two Newark fan bases right now.
And I think that's a really important clarification, that this is between the fan bases, right? What we are not seeing is animosity on the field. I saw someone sharing a clip, where Aaron Judge is stretching before the game in the outfield, and Soto is in the area and like kind of is walking towards him and then walks back and is also doing his own stretches. And people are like, Aaron Judge gives Juan Soto the cold shoulder, doesn't even acknowledge his presence. I'm like, you guys need to be a little more normal about all of this. I'm sorry. So much of this is just downstream of what fandom of any type is like online today. I think we talked like a few weeks ago about sort of baseball's slow slide towards stand culture in among fan bases, and that feels no more evident than right here, where if you're not with us, you're against us. There's no room for neutrality, for like a kind of triangulated third view where it's like, well, I would like Juan Soto to be on my team, but the fact that he isn't is not going to cause me to, hurl insults at him when I go to the game or try and, get one over on Mets fans on Twitter or something like that. I just think, especially when you have a player who is putting up between last year and this year one of the most impressive offensive performances this side of Barry Bonds. And frankly, maybe a little bit on the other side too, It just doesn't feel that serious. It feels like it's trying to manufacture something that just isn't there. For the players especially, who have almost across the board just poo-pooed this away, and said, yeah, he's playing on his team. He's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. That's it. That's okay.
I think that you're right about the players. I will say, though, I think that it was like a pretty big gut punch for the Yankees organization when Soto didn't sign there. I do think that they were reeling from that. Now, I hold that idea in my head while also simultaneously acknowledging and agreeing that the Yankees had a great offseason after they didn't get Soto. They did exactly what you should do after you don't get your top tier free agent, which is they went and signed a bunch of other guys who were maybe 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th on their list of desired free agents, and they rebuilt the team, and they're a good team again. They are probably, I would say, the best team in the American League at the moment, unless I'm forgetting. Well, the Tigers are playing very well, but I don't think I'm forgetting anybody who I think is better suited in a 162 game season and then a postseason in the American League right now. But I think that there's a really interesting tete-a-tete between the Yankees fans and the Yankees organization. There's such a fascinating tension there between cockiness and self-consciousness about the image of the Yankees in the 21st century post-Jeter, having not won a World Series in the last 16 years, and coming off losing a World Series to the organization that has basically become the de facto Yankees in the Dodgers, where they constantly assert that they are the best, and then by a lot of metrics they are. But then they also constantly assert that nothing is good enough for their own standards. So then you weirdly are undermining your own argument by being like, we are the best, but also we're being judged by a different rubric than everyone else, so we're not good enough either. Mm-hmm. This is a fascinating tension between front office and fan base, especially when what also comes along with that is sometimes front office and organization and ownership not wanting to spend as much money as they used to. And so all of that, I do think that what has really broken a lot of people's brains online, well, maybe even in person too, but what has been exacerbated by the online experience of Yankees fandom surrounding Soto is that Soto is like right in the middle of all of those Venn diagrams. It's like he left for a team that was quote unquote little brother for more money than you could or were willing to give him, coming off a year where you finished in second and didn't win a ring. And so it's all of these factors amassing to be one perfect storm of, dare I say, identity crisis for what it means to be a historic and relevant franchise in what modern Major League Baseball actually is right now.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Although this is not exclusive to the Yankees either, right? I mean, just this weekend, I think yesterday, the day before, Tigers fans came out and booed Alex Bregman in his, first appearance at Comerica Park, who, was talked about signing with the Tigers over the offseason, obviously did not do that. And there is this sort of strange entitlement. Look,
that's even weirder. He never even played there.
Yes, exactly. And it's something that he came out and said he expected it a little bit, right? Because it sounded like he was really close to signing, but there was something that didn't really convince him, which is why he held out for a better offer, like whatever. But it's this weird thing where it's like, I think that I know all the decisions that went in. I think that I know everything that went into the decision that you make, right? And I am best suited to judge whether or not that was the right decision, and whether or not you have spurned this fan base. Again, I enjoy Javi Baez, enjoy Riley Green, enjoy the best pitching staff in baseball. Like, I think it's reasonable to like get your frustrations out, and if you want to boo Alex Bregman, like whatever. I think booing is corny, but get it out of your system. But to like hold this weeks-long, months-long grudge, as Yankees fans have done, just feels like there are probably better things to concern yourself with.
I think booing is corny, but I actually think it's fine for them to boo him. Like when
Soto.
Boo Soto. When the occasion arises, I think it's
sure.
It would be naive to think that they're not going to boo him. I mean, I personally would not. If the shoe were on the other foot and he was traded to the Mets for 1 year and then signed with the Yankees for 15 years, $765 million, I wouldn't boo him. But if I was at the game and everyone around me was booing him, I would not do my trademark thing of being like, why are you guys booing him? Is it because he's good?
Right.
Like when I go see Bryce Harper against the Mets, I'm like, what are you guys booing him for?
Right. You'd be like, I get it.
He came up with the Nationals and then signed with the Phillies. Of course, you dislike him, but it's not like he ever owed you guys anything. He just is good. So you're booing him, and that feeds the fire within him.
Yeah.
Clearly. Now, he was on the Yankees. He had a chance to stay there, and then he chose not to for a number of reasons. It's fine to boo him. Yeah. I think the part that is weirdest is the part where it has become so parasocial. And this is obviously an overrepresented sample from from an online context of Yankees fans, of people being like, and that is then amplified by like the sports radio types, the hot take types, of people being like, he doesn't look happy. Look how depressed he is to be on the Mets. You could have had all of this glory to stay with the Yankees, and yet you chose not to.
Yeah.
That's the part of this that feels uniquely modern, uniquely of a piece with being a baseball fan in this current moment, where it's like everyone on the team is my friend and everyone who's not on the team is like a loser freak.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And if you're a fan of the team of loser freaks, then that makes you by association a loser freak.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, we're all just here to watch some baseball and pass the time before we die and become dirt and dust. I don't know, man.
It's this weird flip side to the like relative accessibility of like watching games and clipping games and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where you can be the John Boy you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
You know?
Everyone has the Zapruder film now.
Exactly. And everyone thinks
there's
that they
Zapruder
have
films everywhere for those with the eyes to see them.
Yeah, I think it's not necessary. Your team is in first, right? They're in first.
Yeah. Not everyone's Boston Red Sox, who they all picked to go to the World Series.
It's certainly not the Baltimore Orioles.
That team stinks. You want to talk about them for a couple minutes?
Yeah, let's do it.
They fired Brandon Hyde. They're
That's
not
right,
good.
they did. No.
What now?
I'm skeptical that firing your manager will turn around the worst rotation in baseball, but
Yeah, does firing the manager get you 2 good pitchers? Like as a bonus?
just can I read you this amazing quote from Mike Elias, who said,
Dude, you can read me on a quote from Mike Elias at any time of any day. You could call me and just read me Mike Elias quotes.
He said, as the head of baseball operations, the poor start to our season is ultimately my responsibility.
Okay, buck stops here.
Part of that responsibility is pursuing difficult changes in order to set a different course for the future. Wait a second.
Part of that responsibility is passing on my responsibility.
Right. Is making sure someone else can take the fall for me.
Yeah, let's go.
Good shit. I mean, it's a bummer, I think. I think the Orioles, like, were they a good team, like they have been in the last couple of years, makes for a more entertaining season. I think they have a really fun core of players there.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's just been hampered by mismanagement from the very top, like from the start. I think the success that they have seen throughout this rebuild has been in spite of the managerial moves they made, not because of them, if that makes sense.
It's a wasted opportunity. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. I would say I'm like among the largest Orioles haters and have been for the last couple of years, to the point where it's like unreasonable. I was just I was being misleading about how good they were in the last few years to prove a point. But they did all the hard parts well, and they refused to do the easy parts. You could say that it's actually not that easy to spend money on free agents and get good free agents, and you could point to a handful of contracts, such as the Javi Baez contract, which then actually turned around and now he's good again. But they're like that meme of the horse that's drawn really well and then gets poor halfway through, you know? You guys you had all the hard parts down.
Yeah.
And I actually think that like the most frustrating part about the Orioles experience for the last couple of years is like, this was the point. They were trying to prove a philosophical point about how to build a baseball team. They weren't trying to build the best baseball team through any means necessary. They were trying to build the best baseball team through one specific mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to prove that works.
That was rooted in, we don't spend money on players. That is the whole thing. That was Mike Elias' whole thing dating back to when he was with the Astros. He was always the hawk in the room when it came to paying people. And when it came to allocating resources to individual players, becoming more of a rounded out roster. The Orioles payroll is $165 million. That puts them $100 million underneath the luxury tax. Thereabouts. That puts them in the bottom half of the league. I mean, you can only buck these kinds of trends for so long before you actually have to get good players. You can't just keep pulling player development miracles out of your ass. And they honestly were probably good longer than they deserved to be based on how much they invested in the roster. I mean, they're playing much worse than they should be playing. I don't think that they should be the last place team in the American League East. But I don't think they should be the first place team either.
Right. I think it's reasonable to expect that they will play somewhere around 500 the rest of the way because
Play
they
mediocre
are an
games,
average team.
Win mediocre prizes.
Exactly.
That's how I feel about the Baltimore Orioles for the last 3 years.
I was looking back on that Manny Machado trade.
Weird one.
Really weird one. Not entirely sure if, well, I guess Dean Kramer was the headliner of that trade.
Imagine this rotation without Dean Kramer.
I know, right?
Good God. He's actually out there throwing innings. How's Charlie Morton doing this season?
Jesus
Big free agent acquisition this past winter. 41-year-old Charlie Morton, whom I love, who I've derived a great joy from watching his curveball over the years, especially except when it was with the Mets.
Yeah. Really funny that every team he goes to, he's the ageless wonder, and he gets to Baltimore, and they're like, here's your age back. Here you go. We'd like the last 10 years to catch up to you, please.
Man. All right. So the other topic that I feel as though we need to talk about today is the reinstatement of one Pete Rose, which you and I spent a lot of time talking about on this past week's Patreon episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. He was our first down. We had an extensive conversation about Pete Rose. But here on the main feed, I do feel like this is one of the bigger stories of this baseball season so far. And so we should probably address it. I've got 3 bullet points of notes for you here. Are you ready to hear them?
I want to hear them.
Okay, the first
also, by the way, game is on. Do you want to know how I know that?
How?
LeBron James tweets.
LeBron James tweets?
LeBron James tweets. Best 2 words in sports. Game 7.
Why is he just like a generic content creator whenever his team gets eliminated?
It's awesome. It's
He
so
just
cool.
goes, he's like a live tweeter. He was tweeting about Caitlin Clark yesterday, who had a triple-double in the season opener.
Yeah.
And people were quote tweeting it like with some of the most insane shit ever, that he would compliment Caitlin Clark and her rivalry against Angel Reese.
Yeah.
How much do you know about that? You up on the W?
Only through the lens of Dave Portnoy.
You go in his full jersey. You saw that?
Yeah.
Are you gonna cop a Golden State Valkyries shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Not a jersey though, because you don't wear jerseys.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
Portnoy showing up in that jersey was an amazing point in your favor for the fact that jerseys
for
suck.
anti-jersey.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me that this game was on. I got to pull it up to the side over here.
I got you.
While we
Well,
pod.
Thank the king.
Back to my notes. 3 bullet points here. The first bullet point says, sure. The second bullet point says, okay. The third bullet point says, I guess we have to talk about this. That's not even a bit. That's really what I wrote. I wrote that out in my notepad here.
For the listeners at home, Bobby did just hold up his notepad to the camera to show me.
Yep.
So I can confirm that.
Mm-hmm.
Verified.
I don't
by an
lie on
independent
this
source.
podcast
No,
unless
you
it's
don't.
about Mike Elias and the Baltimore
Exactly.
Orioles. Why don't you run point on this one, bro?
Yeah, everyone knows what happened at this point, right? Manfred reinstates Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and a handful of other players from MLB's permanently ineligible list, effectively ending their lifetime bans from baseball, which is not really a lifetime ban, as Manfred will go to great pains to point out. And they're now eligible for the Hall of Fame. All right.
So over on the Patreon feed, we talked a little bit about the collectively disappointing pieces of this, mainly resting with obviously the commissioner's office, but we can never expect the commissioner's office at this point to be guided by any underlying morality, any moral code whatsoever.
No.
Mainly wrestling with the Phillies and the Reds in particular, in not only accepting this decision and its consequences, but straight up glorifying Pete Rose and his contributions to their organizations. The Reds then went on to have a impromptu Pete Rose night at the ballpark, and the Phillies put out a really celebratory statement, several paragraphs long. I mean,
yeah.
It was really long. It was like a full article.
Yeah.
That part remains really disappointing to me, that sour taste has not left my mouth since the last time we talked about this. One thing that I have been thinking about from tipping pitches, like power players moving pieces of the chessboard perspective, is what you just said about Manfred and his explanation for why he wanted to do this. It's so annoying and disappointing and demoralizing and despicable and all of these other things.
Drab.
Be a little beyond drab. It's not just like a rainy Tuesday. Despondent. That Manfred can't just be like, I changed my mind, or I heard this argument from the president, or whatever the real reason was that he did this. He has to window dress it in all of these like legalese, procedural terms where he's just like, well, I never believed that it relied or that it continued post-death. And there's all of these facts to prove that I never said that. Like, dude, just stand behind your convictions for once. Mm-hmm. Whether your convictions are good, bad, or otherwise, based on my personal or your personal or the Typic Pitches community's personal set of moral codes, that is actually secondary. We can talk about that later. But just stand behind something at some point, please. We've always called Rob spineless, but never is it more on display than when stuff like this happens, where he's just like, yeah, I can definitely give some sort of logical legalese explanation for why I made this choice. This is much how he's handled every quote unquote scandal or big decision that has come across his desk. That's exactly how he handled the Astros cheating scandal, where he was just like, well, we gave the players immunity. Takes the hard decision out of my hands. This is just a procedural thing that I'm here to do. I'm just doing an investigation, just doing my job, just being a lawyer. I'm like, this dude is not any kind of leader. And he is in so many ways shaped the way, the tenor of the conversation and the tenor of the way that things play out in our sport.
Yeah, he says, in my view, once an individual has passed away, the purposes of Rule 21 have been served. Obviously, a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game.
Okay.
All right. Sure. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack there with this. What this makes me think of is it becomes much harder to make the case. I mean, Hall of Fame voters get to vote their conscience and go whatever way they want, but it becomes far harder to make the case that PED users should not be allowed in the Hall of Fame anymore. So the bar is whether or not they can still harm the integrity of the game. A-Rod's not playing anymore.
Yeah, you're right. He's not juicing anymore.
He's not.
Well, he might be juicing, but not to advance his purposes of hitting home runs on a Major League Baseball field.
Like, is that solely what it's about? Is that we ban these people because we think they can still harm the integrity of the game? And once they can no longer do that, we lift
the ban? Of course not.
I mean,
of course not. Yes. It's about what it says, about what it means to be recognized among this hallowed group of players. Whatever your bar is, whether you think there should be a moral clause or not, there is. There is. He also sidestepped this whole issue by saying like MLB's ban of Pete Rose never extended to the Hall of Fame. We don't control the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah, the Hall of Fame is just going to induct him despite the fact that he can't set foot in a Major League Baseball stadium. Sure, they're going to step that far out of line with how the rest of the league is handling this. Of course. Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, we had no part in this. In fact, we're shocked he wasn't inducted into the Hall of Fame. Like, come on, man. Come on.
It really does read as Manfred trying to stuff his resume with just a bunch of shit. So when people look back on his legacy, they're like, honestly, I don't really know what he did. He was there. I guess he must have been a pretty good one because he was around for a while. He did a bunch of shit. I mean, where does this go on Manfred's retrospective in terms of the biggest moves that he's made? Like the pitch clock?
It's not in the top 5, but it's not beyond the top 10.
I feel like for a lot of baseball fans, it may be in the top 5 in terms of material changes to how we talk about the game.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly top 5 in how many headlines and hours of sports talk radio it's inspired.
Well, and this is what I said on the Patreon, but that's one of the reasons that like, I kind of don't even care if he's reinstated or whatever. Like, I just don't want to have to do this song and dance every 2 years. When Manfred is like, I'm reconsidering his family's petition. I'm like, all right, consider it or don't. Make up your mind.
I mean, what's going to change? What changed between then and now? I mean, a lot of people pointed to the degradation of standards and mores when it comes to something like sports betting. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't even think that was really what changed his mind.
No.
I think this was literally straight line A to B. Trump tweeted about it. They talked about it at the Oval Office. He changed his mind to avoid this conflict.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't want the phone call from the literal president, who is like at a runaway train at this point when he gets going on issues.
Well, and I think in Manfred's mind, there's probably an element of I am righting a years-long wrong here, or maybe not a wrong, but I am rectifying the history books, right, to ensure that Rose remains a part of the story of our great game. This is just one more thing that he can point to and say, look, I love the game of baseball. I'd tattoo it on my forehead if I had the chance,
If someone really loved the game of baseball, they wouldn't shorten every single game every single day.
Literally.
Prove your love of the game by allowing it to drag on for 3.5 hours once again, Robert.
The pitch clock has worked. There's no point in relitigating it. I still think it's an affront to society.
I agree.
That you want the pace of this sport to move at the same pace as the rest of our wretched society. Get out of here with this.
Everything's getting faster. Okay, Zoomer.
The one thing free from the tyranny of time.
Yep.
But you make it suitable for the TikTokers. All right.
Can I propose something to you?
You can always propose to me, Bobby.
This is not... Our names are on so many legal documents together already. This is not the Ban to Topics episode, but I would like to propose a ban on Pete Rose for this podcast for at least the next year.
Instituting our own lifetime ban on Pete Rose. I love it.
Yes. They took the ban away in public, and we are reinstating the ban here on this podcast where Rob...
They're kicking it down to the states in the podcast and letting them institute their own
Robert Dean Manfred Jr., his jurisdiction ends here. What say you, Justice Alex?
I think that's great.
What say you, the junior senator from Tipping Pitches?
I say we don't cooperate with feds like Rob.
That's right.
Sorry.
Okay, fuck Pete Rose forever. That guy fucking sucks. He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and he's banned from this podcast now. Okay, I have one final topic, but before we get to that, do you have anything else that you want to chat through? Anything else you want to work through? By the way, Aaron Gordon's hamstring not looking so hot, but Denver's up 6. So
are you on the hamstring cam?
I'm on the hamstring cam. Yeah.
Only hams.
Boo.
Do you want to mention the Twins at all?
What, that they won 31 games in a row or something?
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, I think they're about to break their streak.
They've been as good as the Rockies have been bad. Although the Rockies scored 12 yesterday. Dream big.
On the come up, you fire Bud Black once. See where it takes you.
That's right. Yeah, let's talk about the Twins. Great.
I don't have a lot to say. Just kind of crazy that they're winning that much, huh? My boy Pablo Lopez still out here in 2025 getting it done. That's my boy, day one.
You know who's not my boy? Chris Paddock, but he's been like an
I know that equally about you.
Number one Chris Paddock hater has logged on. You know what's fascinating about the Twins as an organization for the last couple years? They are maybe the best example of the "it's so over, we're so back" paradigm, but they don't get talked about that way because they are firmly situated amongst the blah AL Central, where every team ends up within 5 or 10 games of 500 every single year and doesn't really do much in the postseason. But the way that the Twins have gotten there has been real. Our compass is demagnetized and we don't know what the fuck is happening. And then we get to the destination at 500.
Right.
They were so terrible to start this season to the point where it was like, Twins fans were really pissed that the sale did not go through of the team, that they didn't do much this past offseason to improve the team after really having a shot in the AL Central, and now the rest of the division has really caught up around them. Several rebuilds are coming into focus now at this point. The Tigers, the Royals, exciting stuff going on there. The Guardians are still doing bullshit. Defying logic, getting outscored every season and yet somehow finishing 12 games above 500. I don't understand it. And it was looking bleak. And now they go on an insane hot streak, much like they went on, at least on the offensive side of the ball, last year after the summer sausage. So really weird stuff happening in Minnesota. And they maybe like to take a closer look into what's been going on there. I don't understand it.
We do need to figure out what's going on there. Yeah, I mean, they're like still 4 games out of first place, right? So they're not running away with anything right now. But also, before we started recording this podcast, they hadn't allowed a run since Wednesday. That's okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like, am I really sitting here getting AL Central pilled right now?
Bro, there were people like on Yankees Twitter or whatever being like, what do you think it would take to get Royce Lewis? And they were throwing out like a pitching prospect and like a reliever. I'm like, come on now, guys. I know Yankees fans are always doing stuff like this, but come on.
It's all the more impressive that they're doing this, given that like at any given time they have like a dozen players on the IL for concussions.
Dude, their injury history is out of control.
It's crazy.
It's not just Buxton either.
No,
it's everyone.
Yes.
Aaron Gordon and one. Hamstring still holding firm.
That's right.
Nuggets up 10.
Oh my God.
All right. Can I tell you about my final topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
I wanted to talk to you about just a broad thing that I have been thinking, and I wanted to gut check it with you as to whether this is something
I love when you do this.
that you have been noticing too, or this is just something that's happening all in my head, like most things. I have a question for you about pitching in today's modern baseball reference.
Nice.
When you watch baseball, do you see an epidemic of nibbling? I've been thinking about this a lot because I have to watch Tyler McGill every 5 days. But then there's also like Blake Snell has 2 Cy Youngs and he's like chief nibbler.
Yeah.
Every pitcher nowadays has incredible stuff compared to what the average pitcher had 20 years ago. And they all use it in such interesting ways, such analytical ways. None of them are trying to get deep into games. Obviously, we're not trying to rehash any of these talking points right now, or at least I'm not. Maybe you are. But I don't find it fun for guys to be just nibbling all of the time. I don't find it fun to watch. And I was thinking about it in particular because before we got on here, well, McGill pitched on Friday afternoon. And so that has been on my mind as he has cooled down from his hot start. But I was thinking about before we got on here because I was watching Skeens versus Mick Abel, who was making his MLB debut, and he was pounding the strike zone. He was striking dudes out left and right. And Skeens obviously doesn't really nibble because he doesn't have to. And so when you see guys who pitch like bulldogs, like I would say early career or even like mid to late career, Max Scherzer, I just feel like there's a total dearth of guys like that who just come after you. Everyone is a nibbler. And of course, much of it is analytically defensible. It's like you're setting up you're trying to set up pitches on the outside half so that you can get people out with breaking stuff, so you can induce soft contact, all of these different things that we know about now, or that are cataloged now that we knew about qualitatively before and we know about quantitatively now. But with all of that context, I ask you, like, when you're watching a baseball game, you're like, damn, dude, these guys are just not throwing strikes.
I mean, I think you're right. I think back to our discussion of the Athletic article as well about the buffer zone and the strike zone, right? And this being sort of the law of the land, at least for the last few years, maybe somewhat unintentionally, but that, you are encouraged to aim for what is essentially, this like whatever 2-inch little zone border beyond the box itself. Like, now obviously that has changed this year as they have reduce the size of that buffer zone down to 3/4 of an inch. But that was essentially an incentive to nibble, right? Like, that's why would you throw it down the middle and try and sneak one by a guy if you can throw it outside of the literal strike zone and still have a chance of getting it called a strike? Like,
because it's cooler. That's why.
I mean,
because it's more fun to watch.
I completely agree. Watching Skeens pitch right now is unbelievable.
Yeah,
like
breaking news. It looks watching like the best pitcher in baseball by a standard deviation is fun. But I know what you're saying.
But I would be interested to see if this changes at all over the course of the season as pitchers course correct a little bit more. I didn't do research before this pod because why would I do that? I don't know what zone rates are looking like over the course of the season.
Yeah, there is a definite answer to this.
I'm sure there is
I'm
an
just
answer.
Not willing to find it.
But I agree with you that it's
this
far
is a
more
vibes-based podcast.
It's far more entertaining to see guys either pitch to contact or pitch for a strikeout rather than trying to steal one every single time. Right? It's like, look, I have filthy stuff and I'm going to try and throw one by you, and I either will or I won't. And then on the next pitch, I'm going to bury a slider in the dirt. And either it's just going to be a ball flat out, or I'm going to make you look foolish.
There's a small line of delineation in my mind. Like, there was a big panic within the last 10 years about there being too many strikeouts. Too many home runs, too many walks. 3 true outcomes. We know this now. I think there's a difference between a guy pouring it in and getting a 3-pitch strikeout and a guy starting every count at 3-0 or 3-1 and then battling back to strike out a guy because he's still trying to hit a home run. There's a difference between those things. And I think there is just, like I said, there's a dearth of guys who are willing to pour it in nowadays because you can be hurt by that. And there's all of these different incentives to not do that. Primarily the fact that it doesn't really matter if you run your pitch count up because you're coming out anyway. You're coming out the third time through whether you're at 75 pitches or whether you're at 95 pitches.
Yes, there is a negative value associated with trying to throw your pitch down the middle and hoping the guy doesn't hit it, as opposed to just throwing 4 consecutive balls in the, low and away.
Stop
and
walking guys, though, bro. Stop it. I mean, Stop. There's nothing worse than watching your guy who's supposed to be like one of your better starters just totally lose faith in being able to throw strikes. Like, if he hits it out, he hits it out. Who cares, man? Once again, we're all going to be dirt and dust one of these days. We're playing a game. Edwin Diaz versus Aaron Judge yesterday was another example of this, where he was just like, I'm just throwing gas.
Yeah.
You do what you do. I don't care.
Well, this is like not really related, but this is something I was thinking about, and I was going to save for 3 or 3 down. But like, there's just such a flattening of the way that pitchers pitch these days. I mean, obviously pitchers have different arsenals and they use them relatively differently, but like, generally speaking, most pitchers look the same and are approaching their game plan from the same way.
Yeah, they all throw 38% sliders.
Right, exactly. Where did my submarine pitchers go? Yeah, I know that's not technically, like the most optimal route to throwing the baseball through a given tunnel, whatever. I don't give a shit. Give me guys that throw weird. You know what I'm saying?
Here's a real question I have for you, a real genuine baseball development question that I don't understand the answer to and never will. Other than maybe it's just an ego thing. Where are all the knuckleballers? Where are they? We have this epidemic of elbow injuries causing an existential crisis for the future of pitching development. And we have an obvious answer to it right there, that some guys who can't throw that hard, but who force themselves to learn biometrically through all of these different advanced techniques how to throw that hard and then blow out, they could just become knuckleballers. And if it doesn't work out for them, sorry. Tough luck. You weren't cut out for this. Leave it to Skeens to be the one to throw 102. And yet, we don't have more knuckleballers. We have fewer knuckleballers than ever. It's a shame. It's a shame what has happened to this great and weird game. We just have a bunch of cookie cutters coming out here, throwing cutters and sliders. That's my rant.
I think you're right. I would love to see more knuckleballers. I think that it's hard to actually throw a really good knuckleball. I think that is the biggest barrier to having more knuckleballers, is that, like,
don't care.
I know. Learn.
Start trying to learn earlier.
Right.
It's also hard to throw a 101 mile an hour fastball. The sample size at a population level of people who could learn how to throw a knuckleball is higher than the sample size at a population level of people who can throw 101. That is just true.
Yeah.
You could have been a professional knuckleballer if you started earlier enough and had the right person teaching you. And so could I.
I think what makes it hard is that the margin for error there is so low.
Right.
Like,
as soon as it stops working at all, it's just getting tattooed.
Then you are no longer a good pitcher anymore. But I get it. Like,
R.A. Dickey won the Cy Young in recent enough memory that I have vivid images of it in my brain.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
I know.
There's something there. Who will be brave enough to say to their young pitching prospects who have flamed out, time to try the knuckleball, brother?
Well, it's like, we don't want to lose this language. right? Like
We're losing the ancient texts.
Exactly. We need the knowledge passed down through generations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is what you get when you have just 30 front offices whose main priority is being risk averse, you know?
Yep.
Like, why would you do that when you could just get a stable of guys who throw 93?
Because it's cool.
Look, man, I agree. The day that there is a baseball owner who says our new philosophical thinking about how to run this baseball team is what is the coolest.
Yep.
I'm buying the owner's jersey.
Yep. Custom made through Fanatics. Paid with Bitcoin or whatever. Check out at Ticketmaster.
I'm going to make that shit myself. I will hand stitch that name onto the jersey.
This reminds me so much of how, like, we're never going to get another movie star like Elliot Gould. You know, we're never going to get a knuckleballer like R.A. Dickey. Like, that is just dead as a possibility.
Yeah.
We're not allowing for that level. That wide error bar just doesn't exist anymore. And
I agree that I think we can use more of them. I think that if we had like multiple knuckleballers in the league at any given time, it would start to lose its novelty. Like, I actually do think it's awesome that if we get like one knuckleballer every 4 or 5 years.
I think that there should be at least one knuckleballer in Major League Baseball,
Right,
or
a
at
knuckleball
least
quota.
or at least yes. Honestly, yes.
Affirmative action for knuckleballers.
He can be team agnostic for all I care.
Yeah.
He can bounce around to every single team like a steady quarterback when you're playing at recess. I don't care.
Yeah.
We pay, everyone contributes the same amount to his salary. What is R.A. Dickey up to? Can he still chuck it? I bet he can. I bet he can. And that's cool.
I don't know why he would, but
I love that guy.
I do too. Still bitter that I dropped him in my fantasy league before he threw his perfect game, but no one really wants to hear about your fantasy baseball league from 13 years ago. So
I know. No one wants to hear about it except people on the Patreon when you get to talk about the truckers.
Exactly.
That's my impassioned plea to the pitching development pipelines of Major League Baseball.
More knuckleballers, less nibblers.
Let's put that on a shirt.
More weirdos.
Yeah. All right, Alex. That's all I got this week.
You did great.
Micropod?
Of a kind. What are we at? Oh, yeah. Coming up on the 60-minute mark.
We just can't fill it up like we used to, you know? We don't go into the 8th inning anymore. We only go into the 6th.
I know. The epidemic is hitting us, too. Sorry.
Wins above replacement has come for podcasters. You have to be efficient. It's all about FIP. It's not... It's not about whether your jokes actually play. It's about whether they should have played.
Right.
It's about whether they were well conceived.
Mm-hmm. Look, I think our OPS is trending in the right direction.
You just landed on that stat?
Uh-huh.
You were just thinking for a second there, like, what's a stat?
What's a stat that I could think of?
I got one.
I want to
OPS. Blow these dudes away.
We're going to be like, whoa.
Okay. You know, we have a Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if you all have heard of it. Patreon.com/tippingpitches. There are 2 tiers of access at that Patreon. The first one is $5 a month. That is to support us and the great work we are already contributing to the world here. That is also to get access to the greatest place on the baseball internet, the Tipping Pitches Slack, where there's problems being solved every single day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of problem solvers over there. The second tier is $10 a month. That is twice as much as $5. That's nice and neat. We went to great pains to change the tier system to make it nice and neat because we love round numbers like that. We love multiples of 5. At that tier, you will get access to the Tipping Pitches Slack as well. You'll get to support the great work we're doing here, but you will also get 2 extra episodes per month. Every other week, new episode in your Patreon app.
Good ones.
Or in your private Patreon feed, RSS feed.
No cutting room floor bullshit out here.
No, it's all good stuff. 3 up, 3 down, every other week. You and me really hitting the hard topics.
Mm-hmm.
Really getting into the issues. Tariff policy, taxation without representation.
Mm-hmm. Mark Cuban. RSS feed readers.
RSS feed readers. Let's see. What else did I write down here for last week? Oh, no, you see, can I tell you about a problem that I've had recently?
Yes, please.
Okay. It used to be that I had several different steno pads for different things in my life. Like I would only use one steno pad for tipping pitches stuff. But then I just got kind of annoying to have several different ones on my desk at any one time, especially after I moved. And so then I started putting everything for my work, for tipping pitches, for my life in the same steno pad. And now I can't find anything in here. I'm flipping backwards. I'm seeing notes from the Ringer. I'm seeing notes from my worker co-op class. That's not what I need right now.
That's not what you need.
I need my 3 up, 3 down from this past Wednesday. It's throwing me all out of whack.
Have you ever considered using an AI note taker?
Have I ever considered? Okay, I found it. It was like just one page further back. Last week we talked about how bad the Rockies are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I also gave an impassioned defense of Fernando Tatis Jr.
Look, it's all there on the Patreon. Anything that you can think of, it's covered.
It's also what you might call a little looser. We might get a little bit more of us.
Mm-hmm.
A little more truth. We'll cut a little closer to the core of what our lives are really like.
Right. We pull no punches.
I had told a heavily redacted story about Carmelo Anthony.
Yes. Oh, you kept that in. That's good.
I did. I told you I was going to keep it in, but redact all of the parts that ever were going to be interesting, which is a funny bit.
Want to talk about the Savannah Bananas?
No.
Okay, great.
We could ban them.
Save that for next week. I know.
Just a lot of discourse around those guys. Good for them. I'm happy for them. Not my thing, but good for you guys.
Look at that. That is Bobby Wagner practicing letting people enjoying things. Enjoy things. Ah.
Let them enjoy it. I don't care. Let me enjoy my knuckleballers.
Yeah. And your $500 million right fielders.
$765 million.
Well, still 500.
That's true.
More than 500, but still getting $500 million.
Mutually inclusive. All right. Thanks, Alex. Thanks,
Bob.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back here in 1 week's time. We'll talk to you then.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Rodriguez. Tipping pitches.
Tipping pitches.
This is the one that I love the most.
Tipping pitches.
So we'll see you next week. See ya!